Welcome to the Feminine Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine.
Welcome to the
Let's dive
Feminine
in.
Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in.
Where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to the Feminine Waters podcast. I am Tiffany.
And I'm Chiquita.
And today we're going to be talking about, I guess this falls under the femme touch as well, like attracting what we desire with our feminine energy. And so I recently attracted someone that I really wanted. And I am engaged now, so that escalated quickly from the last podcast.
Yay. Congratulations, girl.
Thank you. So I think I've done a few videos actually on attracting things. What I would say is, I think the main thing that is an issue when we work on bringing things to us is one, just holding on to it so tight. Like, it's hard, but I really worked on letting go of the outcome. You put out what you want, but you can't hold on to it, and you can't hold on to like how you want it to appear. It's just know that you're going to get it and just be open to however it comes. And so that's something that I've been working on for a while, and it's worked out. Also, just it's the control thing. I think we all, like, I am somebody who's like a control freak, and I've loosened up over the years, but I still like to control a lot of things, because life is so. I mean, we don't have control over a lot of things, so I get it, but we have to learn how to trust more and like just surrender, give things over. And also elevating yourself to that frequency of the thing that you want. And so that's stuff that we can be working on, so that we are closer to that thing that we are desiring, to the thing that we want to come to us.
Girl, we are so aligned. It's so crazy because literally every single thing that you said, I relate to. And that's been the story of my life for like the past year, let's say maybe year and a half. Letting go was really, really, really tough for me. Like you said, if you hold on to something so tightly, and we tend to think like when you are holding on to something, then it'll work out in your favor, because you feel like when you're holding on to it, you're nurturing it, or so I thought. But actually, you're suffocating it when you're holding on to it so tightly. And that is something I really had to realize when it came to my finances. I'm somebody who historically, I was always very tight with money. I like to, I still call myself frugal, you know what I mean? And I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, but like, a lot of people in my family, especially on my dad's side, are very, very frugal. And, with this pandemic, that's when I really learned the importance of just living in flow with your finances. I'm somebody who I didn't tithe at all, and because I was afraid to tithe, because I'm like, why am I giving my money away if I need it? But I've been tithing consistently since 2020, and I've been able to see how the Lord has just been able to bring money back into my life, so that's just one aspect of it. And then also you mentioned trust, that's a hard one, because like you said, I have been labeled a control freak as well. And it's funny because somebody even called me that last week, and I was deeply offended, but I had to actually look into it. I was like, okay, this person said I was a control freak. especially if it has the word freak attached to it, you automatically see it as a negative thing, right? So
Right.
I'm like, just from what society says. But I was like, let me look into this. Like, let me do some research and really see like what it means to be a control freak. And what I learned was that everybody's a control freak. Everybody wants to have control over their lives, whether it's being tight with money, if it's procrastinating, if it's like pushing your ideas and your opinions on other people. There's so many different aspects of it, but once you are aware of it, then you can try to see how you can trust and dial back, so that was really big for me too. And surrender, that's something else that you said. And literally surrender has been my mantra for like the past 2 years, just surrender. Because I'm somebody who in my past, I overanalyzed everything, overthought, overthought everything. If it didn't happen, like if this wouldn't have happened, then this maybe would have happened, or maybe I shouldn't have said that because this could have happened, but at the end of the day, it's just like, it is what it is. I mean, it sounds so cliche to say, but it is what it is. And once you trust that the universe, the Lord, God, whoever you want to say, has your best interest at heart, it's going to work out, and you just have to trust and believe that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, and it's part of like falling in line with your femininity. Like just
totally,
the letting things flow, and being at ease. And I'm trying to, like, I'm a water sign, we're both water signs, so I'm trying to just focus on flow and not so much think about the part of me that's a crab and always like rigid in a shell or whatever, but like I'm just focusing on like, just let things flow. And definitely I'm frugal, I'm still frugal, but I'm trying to not be like I definitely had to, surrender, especially during this pandemic when things weren't going the way I really wanted them to with my business and certain moves I had made. And I was just like, I really can't think about this. I was just like, just leaving it in your hands, God. And it was super, super hard because I'm so money minded. I've been that way since I was like 7 or 8 years old. I've been budgeting since I was 8 years old. In general, cancers are super money focused. And so for me, it was like really, really difficult. But things just started to come to me, and it's where I've been able to like sustain myself, thank God. And I've just been able to, like, somehow my credit score is going up, and I'm just super confused because like I'm doing exactly the same thing, and I definitely have less money than I had like the year before. So I'm just like, I don't really know how, but okay, thank you. So,
right. Yeah. Living in flow, and that
yeah.
abundance will just happen. It's so funny you say that, because even me, when I think about it, I'm like, because I don't have like a steady income right now,
Right.
like since COVID, my travel business has been under, which was really, really difficult to deal with at first. But once again, surrendering, like, all right, Lord, like my business is on a hiatus for, I don't know how long, but I trust that you will provide. You are Jehovah Jireh. That's what you do. You provide, you know what I mean? So you are going to set it up in a way where I'm going to be able to receive. And literally, like, money has been falling out of the sky, and it's been amazing, like, I mean, I won't get into everything of how I've been, sustaining myself, but it's literally like little miracles after little miracles that are happening. And, and especially in the US, we have this mindset where it's like, you must be working, you have to work in order to get money. And that's not necessarily the case. I'm not saying you can just sit down and do nothing and money's going to come. Sometimes it happens for me like that sometimes, but I'm not going to push that narrative. But if you are conscious about putting out into the world, whether that's your knowledge, your purpose, your skills, whether you're helping other people out, whether you're gifting other people, you are going to receive things in return, and I think that that's really important to pay attention to.
Yeah, definitely.
listeners, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. Because first, it's free, which is one of the main reasons why I chose it. Let's be real. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And I use both ways in order to edit this podcast. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more podcast platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's really everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. Like I'm on here doing transitions, and it's just so simple, adding background music to things. Like, it is so easy. So if you're ready to start doing your podcast right now, just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
I think that in like attracting what you desire, it's also a test in, I often find it a test in like your obedience, because sometimes like you say you want something shows up, and you're not trusting what God is telling you. If you feel you hear God, I mean, I've have like certain examples where I'm just like, I know I heard God tell me to do something, and I was just like, I can't, because I'm like trying to control the thing. And he was just like, you said you wanted this, and I'm telling you to do something that's going to lead you to this, and you're not doing it. There was one circumstance where I was working a super, super horrible job at a booking agency in Philadelphia, and it was bad. Like, I was super miserable. It was low paying, unless maybe you like signed somebody. It was like, it took me like 2.5 hours to get to work every day, and then of course another 2 to get back home. Anyway, it was miserable, and I kept hearing for like a couple weeks, hearing God's voice saying to quit. And I was like, no, I can't. Like, this is the only thing I have. He's like, I'm telling you to quit. Like, I got you. And I was just like, no, I can't do it. And I think it was like a month later or a few weeks later, I got a call for this job that I had applied for like a year before. It was the job that I'd been wanting. And yeah, and it was going to be like more money than I'd ever had. And I think it was like 2 weeks. Yeah, it was like 2 weeks after I had heard like God speaking to me. And then my final 2 weeks, like, I never even got paid for them. The guy was hella shady. And so it was like, I already didn't want to be there, because like I was getting calls, and when I would call people, they would be like cussing me out, saying they never wanted to work with this guy. And anyway, so the last 2 weeks, it was like from the time that I was hearing God telling me to quit, I didn't even get paid for those weeks. So it's just like, I told you, had you been obedient, like, you wouldn't have wasted your time and your money, because I told you that I got you. And so I feel like it's always like a test in obedience, and I tried not to like be so hesitant the next time that happened, which was like a year and a half ago. So I made, I'm just trying to listen more. When you put stuff out there, saying what you want, you have to believe it's going to come back, and you have to be ready to make those steps.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me the most was believe, and that's what a lot of us are dealing with. That's why it's so difficult to be obedient, because we're not believing that we're really hearing from God, and that's the thing. If you feel as though you're getting something from him, if you're getting a message, talk to him about it and ask him, like, is this you? Is this you? Because, there's a lot of mixed messages. There's your own thoughts. There's the enemy, there's subliminal messages that you're getting. I just watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix last night, and whew, Lord, like, there's a lot of subliminal messages that we're getting from social media that people are not even aware of. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a lot, entering into your psyche, and it's really important to have your quiet time and be still and really understand what it is. And just an example of believing or of hearing different thoughts or attracting what you desire, there's also the flip side, the negative side to that as well. Because just an example for me, like, I remember in 2015, I had gotten out of a really bad situationship. And like, I was just like, Lord, like the next guy that comes into my life, like, I want to be specific about the type of guy I want. So I like listed out all these qualities, you know what I mean? And I was like, this is the guy that I want. And literally like 8 months later, like he manifested like in full form. But there's a but. So first, let me say, before I get to the but, let me say this. And he was literally like the finest guy that I had like ever been with, like in my life. I was like, whoa, God, you listened. Like you gave me exactly what I asked for. Like even down to his profession. Like I had even said that I wanted a guy who's like lean, who has like a soccer player body or like a swimmer body. And he was a professional soccer player. So even like down to that, like in everything. But I didn't ask God, is this the man you have for me? Like he's manifested in front of me, but is this from you? You know what I mean? I just assumed that just because I asked God for it and he appeared into my life, that this was the man for me, not knowing that it would be one of the most toxic relationships that I've ever been in my entire life. You know what I mean? So just because something is presented to you doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be good. So you need to consult with God and be obedient to what it is that he has to say. Because if I would have done that, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and drama.
Yeah, I did the same thing too. I wrote down things that I wanted or thought that I wanted, or things that were important, some things that I thought were important at the time. And that ended up being like my best friend at the time. It was probably 6 months after I wrote all these things. My best friend at the time told me that he loved me, and I was just like, what? And so that was like, I wasn't trying to go there. And then I realized, oh wait, he's all the things. I didn't even realize. And it was weird. Like we never actually got together, but it ended up being this just weird back and forth thing for no reason. And we're not even friends anymore now. So yeah, that wasn't a good thing. That wasn't a good thing. So you definitely have to and the same thing. Like I wrote down all these things, but I didn't say like, as the guy that you made for me. So I'm thinking, oh, but this is what I wrote, so this must be, and he's my best friend, so how perfect is that? And no, it just was a disaster. So
yeah. Yep. Got to be intentional when you're writing those things. Because I was literally just like listing things like boop, 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 boop. But what I notice is that when I actually journal, like when I write to God, like a story, then that's when I see things tend to manifest in the positive, rather than just listing it out. And I'm just saying it for me. I don't know how it works for other people, but literally, I remember writing in my journal in 2009, no, actually in 2012, because I was already in Liberia at the time, but I was still working for a resort that I worked for. And I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I knew that I wanted to be in the tourism space. And I wrote this long journal entry to God. And like, amongst all of the things that was in there, the thing that I'll talk about right now is how I said that I wanted to be the face and name of Liberian tourism. That's what I really wanted to do. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. I had no idea, but, God just allowed for it to work out. And within like a 3-year time frame, like that's exactly what happened. Like this is a very humble brag, I promise. If you Google Chiquita Johnson, Liberia, like the first 2 pages on Google will be all about, me and the work that I've been doing in the Liberian tourism space, whether it's, my travel company or consulting with the government on different projects, having other donors and other organizations that I worked with in tourism, working with them. So, and I didn't even realize it at the time, and I had even gone to a few conferences where, I'm just thinking like I'm one of the attendees, just going. And then I'll get there and I'll introduce myself to somebody. They'll be like, oh, like Chiquita Johnson from Liberia. And I'm like, wait, how do you even know who I am? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And So I'm just saying that to say, like, you have to be intentional about what it is that you're writing. And once again, that word, you have to trust that, it's going to work out in your favor.
So you said you write it as like a story?
Yeah, I write it as a story. Like,
Okay.
yeah. And
like,
then
like scripting.
yes, exactly. Like scripting, and then also having like gratitude in there as well. Like, I thank you for, and I write it in the present tense
Right,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah, right in the present tense. And I say, thank you for giving me this, thank you that I am this. Thank you that I have, done this, even if I haven't seen it manifest yet. So
nice. Yeah,
that's a practical way.
Yeah, I've done scripting a few times, which is like really cool, actually, once I let go of, again, control, because I had tried it before, maybe last year, and I was just like, oh, but how's that going to happen? And how's that going to happen? And then someone else was just like, no, you can't like try to be practical about it. Just write whatever it is that you want. Like, just forget about logistics. Like, and then it was like the coolest thing ever. But I keep like a book, manifestation book, or sometimes I write notes in my phone. I like for what I wanted in a guy the second time, once I realized and fixed my mistakes from the first time, it's in my phone. The qualities that I knew were super important to me. And so I have that, but then I started like, I have also a manifestation book where I just, I say like, I'm like in the present tense, like I'm so grateful for da 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 da. Like, so I'd be like, I'm so grateful that I was, you know, that I don't know, like that I found the man made specifically for me. Yeah, that's somewhere in there. And it's really cool to do. I would do it every day, or then it was like once every few weeks. Now I just do it like every month. But it's super cool to like go back and see like what actually like manifested.
Yes, that's the best.
Yeah. I do that every once in a while. I'm just like, yo, this actually happened. That's so cool.
Yes. Yes. Oh, when you can go back and read it, oh, that is the best. And that's what makes it different from praying, because, it's sort of easy to forget your prayers, you know what I mean? Especially if you're asking for something specifically. But if you can go back and read it in your own handwriting and see it come, see that it actually came, there's nothing like that. It's like, wow, God, like you really do exist,
Yeah.
You really do.
Because I really just like write what I'm wanting to attract, and then I forget about it. So when I look back, I'm just like, oh snap. Like, I think last month was like the most I've ever like, because I've taken to doing manifestations at the beginning of the month now, and then like doing gratitude at the end of the month. Although like it's good to do gratitude every day, but I've taken to like having like little rituals around doing that. And when I like reviewed my stuff from early in February, I was just like, I think I had like 11 things that I had written down that I wanted. And like 8 of those things had happened within the last few weeks. And I was just like, yo, that's like the most. It happened so fast. It was really amazing to see.
Yeah. And for me, what I notice is like the things that are like heavy hitters, like, like big things in your career or like your life partner, things like that. I feel like those take a little longer to manifest. And it makes sense because like those are like concrete, like foundational things in your life. Like they're not things, I mean, it does happen for certain people like that, like with the snap of the finger. I haven't had that experience, but like if it's something, I don't know, maybe something that you don't even think is as significant, you'll notice that it'll just like kind of happen, like you said, within like a few weeks or a few months, or, to me, it depends on like the weight of what it is that you're trying to manifest. So I'm saying that to say that it's important to have patience as well, which is really difficult for me because patience does not come naturally to me at all. So that's something that the Lord has been really working on with me too, is like, okay, Chiquita, like I'm going to give you these things, like, but you're not going to get it in the time that you want it. And you have to be okay with that. Like you have to trust that, I got you, you know what I mean? I'm not a genie, so let me take my time. And then the fact that he works outside of time as well, that's really important for us to remember too, because what's maybe 50 years to us, who knows how long that is to him? It's probably like 1 second, you just don't know. But I'm saying all that to say that patience is something that I also want to stress here, is like, you have to just wait and, receive your blessing. It's on its way. Yeah.
Yeah, always. I think it's also what I've experienced just for myself. Like, I don't always have to write things down that I'm wanting to attract. It's like, something, whatever's like a thought that's like consistent. And I say consistent, but also in a way where, again, we're not like holding on to something. But like for me, I have just always wanted a whirlwind romance. I've always wanted that. It just didn't make sense to me why I would date somebody for a year or two, then to wait for a proposal, then maybe wait another year for a wedding. I was just like, this is just too much time. Like, you should know these things. Like,
Totally.
And I've just like always wanted that. And so it's somewhat shocking, but also like, of course, like that happened to me. Of course, like I would get engaged after knowing somebody for like 3 months, and because it's exactly what I wanted. I've always, when I pictured, the perfect guy, I was like, the perfect guy is going to be like, let me help you pay your student loans. That was always my thing, and literally, that was like how he began proposing to me, and I was just like, wait, what?
And wait, you guys had never had a conversation about that
No,
before?
no, no.
Stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
It was so crazy. I was just like, excuse me? Yeah. Yeah, even my mom was like, who does that? Like, who says I'm gonna help you pay your student loans? I was like, who even thinks of that?
For you?
Right. She's like, who even thinks of that? I was like, me? I think of that because that's always what I wanted.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's so true. That's so true. You don't always have to write it down. These could be thoughts. And for me, sometimes it's dreams too. I'll see things in my dreams and I'm like, ooh, I like the way that felt in my dream, and I'll keep it in mind, and I'll go back and I'll think about it, and then you'll just see little like synchronicities, like little things just kind of like tying together. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this thing that I dreamed came into reality, and you don't really have to even put that much effort. That's important too. Like, once again, with letting go and releasing control, you don't have to put that much effort into it. It's not like, wishing upon a star where like your eyes are closed really tight and you're like, please, 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 because then you're moving from a place of lack. If you're like, because you're begging, you're moving from a place of lack. But if you're just, once again, it's so funny, we keep on going back to these keywords. If you're believing that it's going to happen for you, it just will, it just will.
Yeah. I would say, again, like the surrender, the releasing control, because I used to, I'm always praying for God to do his will and not mine. And I think that's like a kind of common prayer. But when I used to pray it some years ago, it was like, yeah, God, do whatever you want. Your will, not mine. But it's also like, but I secretly want you to just do what I want, right? Like, but I really don't mean that. I really want it to be this way. And at some point that shifted. I think it was probably like 3 or so years ago. And it really was, no, like, really just do whatever. Just do whatever. Whatever you see fit, do whatever. Like, I know how I want things to go, but like, it doesn't even matter. It's not up to me. Just do whatever your will is. And so like, that's like when it switches like genuinely to like, no, I just really want you to do what you're going to do. Like that's when it, changes too.
Yeah, totally. And when I really was able to understand what you just described and like actually live in it is when I was babysitting over the summer, or over the past summer. So summer 2020, I was babysitting my little cousins. At that time, he was between the ages of like 6 and 8 months old. And, you know, he would want to do things, you know, like if I was feeding him, he would want to grab the spoon, or he would want to touch the plate or touch the bowl and like flip it over. And it's like, you're constantly stopping him from doing these things. And it made me think about like how God works in our life, where it's like, look, can I just do it? Like, you're being like the baby right now, trying to grab things and do things on your own. And you don't even know that you're messing everything up that I have planned for you. Like, you're going to make a mess. Like,
Right.
I know what I'm doing. Like, I am the quote unquote adult here. Like, you know what I mean? I'm the master here. Like, I don't need your help. Like, I just need you to sit there and chill. And I promise everything's going to be fine. And so once I was able to really be in that space, I was like, all right, God, like, you know, I was able to see it. You know, it was something tangible in front of me that I could see. And I was like, all right, so this is how God looks at me when I'm trying to have control over stuff that he has already written out for me. Like,
Right.
yeah, chill out.
So what do you think are like, I guess, things that people could put into practice that would help help if they have issues with like control, like we've had and still have sometimes, and like, yeah, what got you to more of a space of just ease?
For me, I had to put myself in the mindset of doing something different. It's like, all right, you've been doing A, B, and C for so long and it hasn't been working out for you. Just try doing it another way. You know, you've had control, you've overanalyzed, you've overthought, you've planned for so long. And when you're doing that and it doesn't work out in your favor, you're frustrated, you're upset. Sometimes you're even depressed because you've developed this narrative in your mind that everything's going to work out exactly the way you want it to. And when it doesn't, it hits you hard because, you know, you believed in yourself. You didn't believe in the will of the Lord. So for me, I had to just completely shift my mind completely and just be like, all right, literally at the beginning of 2021, I told myself that I wasn't planning anything, nothing. Like I was intentional about planning nothing and just seeing what would happen in my life if I did that. And honestly, Tiffany, like, it's been a miracle. Like, and it's hard because sometimes I do still want to, like, I want to get in there, you know, I want to get in. But you have to coach yourself and remember and think about, because it will happen. You will have at least one occurrence that'll happen where you're like, all right, so I completely let go of this situation and it worked out literally perfectly. You know, so if you have that one situation that'll happen in your life, you can continue to go back to it and remind yourself, like, this is what happened. Like, remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about overthinking the next thing, think about that and it'll help to like settle you out. So that's been mine. Yeah. Do things differently. Like look at doing things differently. Things that you've always done the same, look at doing them differently, changing up the game.
Yeah, I definitely, I haven't ever like was like, let me just do something totally different. I don't know. I think what has helped me is just like spending more time in prayer. You said alone time, which like has been huge for me in the last, like, I think 2 years. I've been intentionally setting aside time to just be by myself and quiet, whether it's journaling, whether it's just like meditating, or I think that was my church, or what I call my church, this one church, LA.
Mm-hmm.
It was like some sermon, I think, in the beginning of the new year 2 years ago. Pastor Torre was talking about, Sabbath time and being intentional about it. And, how, there's a whole day set out for the Sabbath, but you're really not supposed to be doing anything. So if you want to do it like that, or if you want to break it up during your week, he's like, I don't care, just have your time, have your quiet time with God. And so I've just been really intentional about that in the last couple of years, which has been big, because I have time to just like be and do nothing, and have things come to me, like revelations and stuff like that. Also, like tapping is really good, like EFT. I don't know if you've heard of that. Like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that always helps when I'm feeling like um many different kinds of ways. And then I am always like super relaxed after, and I feel like more at ease with whatever happened or didn't happen that I wanted to happen. Then I feel like okay, like, so I think that's really helped me in just being more in flow and not like worrying so much, like
Mm-hmm.
um and it's also important to like have the space to, that's why I like quiet times. It's also important to have the space to like protect your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I I live in a different realm from a lot of my family, so, and like a lot of my family is super high anxiety, paranoid about everything, worried all the time, um and that can like sometimes seep in if you're around them too much. So it's just like having that space um where you can just like reset and come back to yourself is super important, um because you just can fall into other people's like patterns of,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
their patterns of like, you know, trying to control everything. And um yeah, so yeah, those things have been like game changers for me.
Yeah, definitely being mindful of who you spend your time around, who you're sharing energy with, because I know people like you and I, we can pick up energies from other people. I know I can. I'm an empath for sure. So if you're stressed, if you're sitting right next to me and you're stressed, it's easy for me to pick up that stress, like
Yep.
that's just how I am. So yeah, very mindful of that. And definitely, I agree with you 100% about the quiet time praying. I mean, that has been huge, especially in the pandemic where I literally could not make a single move. I could not work. All I've ever been doing for the past 10 years is working and grinding and trying to build this empire. And the Lord's like, sorry, like time for you to sit down. So it's just me and you, like, here we are, and I mean, it's just been liberating. That's the best word to describe it as, because like all of the anxiety, the stress, the planning, the worrying, like it's so taxing. It's such a weight on you. And to be able to just sit in God's presence or sit in your own presence and just be alone is just, it's so freeing. And something else I will add is breathing. Doing deep breathing has really been huge for me as well. Taking deep inhales in, expanding the belly when you're doing that. And then when you're exhaling, making it seem as though that the belly button is touching the spine. And when you're exhaling, like literally the angst, the worry, everything that you feel in your solar plexus, like believing that that stuff is also leaving your body with the breath as you're exhaling, pushing all of that crap out of you. That's been huge for me too. So I wanted to share that. Something that has also been monumental for me is giving. I talked earlier about how I used to be really tight with money, and but now that my relationship has changed with money, I've noticed that like I'm more giving, and I want to give. Like I love like thinking about little presents to get my friends for like their birthday or like Valentine's Day, or like, whereas before I never used to get, and it sounds bad, but I never used to get anybody anything. Like it just wasn't who I was, because the friend circle. Okay. Yeah. Because the friend circle I was in, it's like, all right, if we're going out to dinner for somebody's birthday, like everybody's paying for their own dinner. And, so like, that's the birthday gift. Like I came to your dinner and I paid. So, I'm just saying, like, that's how it was, but now it's like, even if I am coming to your birthday dinner and I'm paying, I'm getting you a nice little gift, like something thoughtful, something I know that you'll love and you'll appreciate. And I've noticed that since I've started doing that, like I've been receiving in return. I've been receiving a lot of little gifts, a lot of little miracles in return, because I've been more free with giving.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been, I've eased up a little bit, been more in flow with that. It's still not like something I'm super good at, because I don't know, it just doesn't even come naturally. Because I'm just more so, in terms of giving, I'm more so just giving of my time. Like I'm
Right.
always like, I give my time a lot to people. I do things for people a lot. So I'm giving and more so giving in that way.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's all a part of it.
Yeah. So yeah, try not to be like, my brother used to call me stingy all the time. So yeah.
I've gotten that. I've gotten stingy as well, you know, and it's like when people tell you, like when you're at, because you just feel like you're living, you just feel like you're like, you know, I'm just living my normal life.
Yeah.
But when people really are that mirror to you and they say certain things, they're like, wait, am I? You know, you have to really think about it, like, dang. And especially if it affects you, like if somebody says something to you and it hits you in your chest,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's something you really do have to think about and reevaluate. So
Right.
I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for those little chest hits sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is like, wait, am I really like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So listeners, I hope this was good for you and that you were able to pull something super valuable from it so you can start attracting all those things, you know, vibrating at a higher frequency, you know, really just getting in alignment with the life that you're supposed to have. So let us know, and there are some ways to send messages to us on Anchor. So be sure to let us know what you think, what you thought, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Later, guys.